we've got Stevie, a frequent caller, calling back once again, who had a previous conversation with you, Paul, about biblical credibility. Let's
Uh,
discuss it. Stevie, you are on the
oh
line
gosh,
once
okay,
again
sorry,
with Paul and Forrest.
Hey, Forrest, how are you doing, man? After almost 12 hours, I was kind of surprised to see that you were on today.
I live in hell. Yeah, no, Paul's going to be. It seems like you have questions for him mainly, so I'll just be over here taking a nap in the meantime. I'll pitch in if I need to.
Great, great.
Hey, Stevie.
Yeah. Hey, Paul. Have you guys heard of the Station nightclub fire?
The Station nightclub fire. I have not. Is this
It
what
was
do you mean
like a.
station?
It was like a nightclub. Yeah, it was like a infamous nightclub that I think there was like 200 people in there, and there was a band that was performing, and they had like pyrotechnics that went off, and it caught the place on fire, and the whole thing burned to the ground, and people were rushing out of there, and it was horrible. And so
Sounds
I
horrible.
bring that up because there is no fellowship in hell, folks. So there's no party that's to be had, but
What the fuck does
but
that mean?
well,
What
I
the
say
fuck
that
is that
because
connection? Hell's like a nightclub fire, y'all. It's really fun till it's not.
no, I say that because hell is really not.
Oh my
There's no
god.
fellowship there. It's a horrible place, and so yeah, definitely don't want to go there. Everybody thought they were having a good time until the fire went up.
So
Okay.
so Stevie, hell, gotcha. So hell is burnt. You think that the parts of the Bible where it talks about literal burning, you think hell has literal burning, or you take it more figuratively?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's many passages that talk about hell being a place of outer darkness, a place of torment, a place where the smoke never ceases, and yeah, it's just a horrible place.
And you
But
don't
the
think
reason I was
that's
calling
referring?
Paul,
Oh let's not.
go ahead.
So I talk about
This-
hell. What's up? We'll maybe wrap back to hell
Yeah,
depending
yeah.
on how the conversation goes.
I
What's
am
on your mind?
not
Yeah,
letting this call
I'm
end
happy
until
to
we
talk
talk
about
about
it.
hell some more, because good gravy,
right.
that's awful.
What you got,
It
Stevie?
is awful. Yeah, so Paul, the last time I spoke to you, which is why I'm calling in, is it was probably a couple months ago, but during our call, you basically said or admitted or whatever that the Bible would be credible if it wasn't for the miracles in the Bible. And so we talked a little
okay.
bit on that. Is that still your stance, or has it changed?
Well, it depends on what you mean by credible. What I mean, plausible is probably the word I would use. But carry on, unless that changes something
But
fundamental
like
about what your point is.
as a historical document, like if you were to compare that document to say I don't know, Shakespeare or any other ancient
Well,
document,
Shakespeare was
the
specifically
Bible.
said to be fiction, so I don't think Shakespeare is a good
Oh yeah,
comparable.
you're correct. Yeah, but you know what I mean,
Unless
like
you
a
want to just say
historical
the
narrative.
Bible's like a fiction that someone wrote, then I'm actually with you on that, but you probably aren't. No, I mean, so the Bible may, like, if it says that, for example, that during the Passover, at some point, someone disrupted exchanging money in the temples. Is that a credible thing to be in a history book? Like, sure. If that's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, I know that we talked about it, and basically what you had told me at the time was holding you back was that you basically wanted a personal experience, like you wanted God to reach out to you personally, and if you were sitting at the table with him, you would DNA test the fork and all that good stuff. Do you remember that?
I don't. That does sound like a thing I would say. And I do that would be great. I would love, and I'm sure Forrest would as well. A personal visit from God would be very cool. Yeah, I'm down. Can you
And
arrange such
so
a thing?
I cannot, unfortunately, but
Okay.
I guess what I'm getting at is like there are some things that only happen once, right? I mean, the Twin Towers, hopefully that doesn't happen again, but there is no longer Twin Towers, so that event cannot happen again. And so the events of the Bible, were put there because God, wished to give us that information. And so, why do you feel that he should be required, or that you feel like he would cater to you like that?
Well, God has no requirements. So let's if we're on the presumption that Forrest and I are created beings, and that there was either, it doesn't matter if he's all knowing and all loving or any of that kind of stuff. If I create Sims characters, I'm under no obligation to do anything for the Sims characters, right? So like there cannot be an obligation. The only thing that would create
Right.
an obligation is if you made a claim about the if you made a claim about this God, that this God wants to have a relationship with Forrest and I, say for example. If you are asserting that that is the case, then a prerequisite for that all-powerful God having a relationship with us is to convince us first that it exists, right? Like, it's impossible to have a relationship with something you don't at least acknowledge exists. Would you agree with that, Stevie?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of why he trusted the scriptures to the Jews, and then the Jews to the Christians. And so, do you
But hold
think that
on.
like?
Well, go ahead.
Go
Finish
ahead.
your question. No, finish
I
your
was going
question.
to
You're
say
good.
that what I was going to say is that let's just say the events of the Bible are true. God is
Cool.
true, and
Okay.
the events in the Bible did happen, and people wrote it down, and that was the method that God chose to reach people. What's wrong with that?
Well, it's not a very good way. It's
It's also
because there are
shit.
all there are all
So how would
there are
you
all
do it?
kinds of books. Well,
Sorry, I just
I'm not.
I,
Go ahead.
that's fine. I'll let you answer this. I have a totally different. That was such a shitty question, and I just want to dig into it. But I'm gonna let you do it first.
So it's not a matter that, let's say all the events happened. That does not mean that a historical book is sufficient evidence to believe that it happened, right? Like, that is there are all kinds of books that are wrong. There are all kinds of things written that where the person was lying. There's all kinds of things where the person was mistaken. There's a whole gradient between what is hyperbole, what is that no one agrees in the Christian church, for example, to what extent Genesis 1 and 2 are literal. There is like every
Mhm.
possible position, every possible gradient, from fully figurative to fully literal. A written word is not is just not a great way to convey this information, because it's so error ridden. So I'm like, it's not my fault that written sources are not great. Like, and so for you saying, well, how else could God have done it? That's not up to me, that God chose a method that is so unreliable, if that is indeed the method. But so many people tell me that so many people become Christians who don't even read the Bible, right? Like, people come to believe for other reasons that are not that written word. So clearly God has other irons in the fire, right? And he's chosen to give personal revelation to some people and not to others, which for me is a big problem, because that means that he's not equally invested in making sure that some people have a relationship and others do. I mean, I've rambled on a bit. is there anything unsatisfactory about this answer?
Well, I mean, obviously, if these events happened, back in the day, there's no other way to record them other than to write them down. I mean, they can't. I don't know how else you would like them to do it, but that's kind of the only option. And then, you
hold
talked
on.
about Revelation.
But there's no other way to do it, but God was in charge of the universe, right? God could have
Correct.
made
That's the
more
way that God
reliable.
chose.
God could have. That's the way God chose to do it. That doesn't mean. So, for example, God could have had our universe where there was literally time portals, or where there were, where God could
That's a fair
have
argument.
God could have a weekly Q&A.
That's a fair argument.
God could have, like God could have done all kinds of
That's
things
how
if
he
you
chose.
think
That's how
he chose to.
Correct.
And he
right.
chose a method that is just fundamentally not very reliable. He may have had great reasons to do so. I can't say whether he had great reasons to do so or not, but that doesn't mean that I should lower my standard of evidence to the level that God wanted to do. Like that's not how this stuff works.
But I think it's not. I mean, what we talked about last time, him physically coming to you, even that wouldn't be enough. You'd have to DNA test the fork. So, I mean, do you feel like that you have a reasonable standard?
I do feel like I have a reasonable standard. I feel like everyone else, I feel like all the believers have an incredibly credulous standard that I can't even fathom why they accept, even though I did accept it for decades. I know why I accepted it. Combination of indoctrination and experiences I was falsely attributing. But no, like if some being, if I have an experience where a being tells me that he's God, why should I not at least put on the table that I'm hallucinating, or that there's something wrong with that something is not even wrong. Wrong is the wrong phrase. That something has happened in my brain where I am getting a non-veridical experience. Why should I assume it's a veridical experience when across the world people have non-vertical experiences? Like, why should my default be that this was God?
Well, in the example that we talked about, I had gave you the hypothetical that he came to you, sat down for dinner, ate with you. You got to put your hands on him. You saw the plates. You saw the food being eaten, all that good stuff. But I mean, I get what you're saying. But can I talk a little bit about? You said that you used to be a Christian, and then you walked away from it. What was it that?
Are we
done with this topic for that?
Are we done with? I'm not even completely sure what the topic of this call is right at this moment. Are we done with?
Before we move on,
are we
I have
done
some
with?
questions about this topic.
Well, I guess I just wanted to see if your mind had changed any since we last spoke about what the standard that you have set, the high bar that you had set. I was just curious if you had changed that. I'm open to talking about other things, but I think we both agree that obviously
the
God
topic of the
chose
call
to reveal it that way.
So is the topic of the call epistemology? Is the topic of the call what is the standard that should convince us of supernatural things? Is that I'm just checking with you, Stevie, to see if that's what you think, if that's what you're here to talk about.
Just anything regarding the Bible. I'm comfortable with that.
Anything regarding the Bible, but so far we've just been talking about epistemology, right? How we decide what we believe.
Correct.
And are you still on team Paul's standards are too high for some reason?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think they're a little unreasonable. Like you said yourself, God, if God is real and you're, a human being, compared to God, we're nothing. To expect Him to cater to you when He's already revealed Himself and given you all the tools you need to find Him.
Do you? What do you mean need? Because do you think that God? You think that God created my mind, right?
Yeah, God created, everybody.
Okay. And you also think that everyone's standard for evidence is just different. Like everyone's brain has a different level for different claims, and that's just the way our brains are, right? Like you don't choose to believe something, you become convinced of a thing, right?
I think there are reasonable standards to everything. When you convict somebody of murder, is it, reasonable? I think it's reasonable, but I see your point.
Okay. So the point here is that I can't choose to think that the evidence that exists is good enough, right? Or sorry, the evidence that I've been presented so far. There might be more evidence that I haven't seen, but so far nothing has convinced me. And you don't think that that's a personal flaw or a fault, right? Like that's my brain doing what my brain was designed to do.
I personally think it's reasonable. Like the amount of evidence that we have been given is very reasonable.
It is
But
reasonable for you, Stevie. Reasonable for you. You have admitted that different people have different standards of evidence. So God chose to meet your evidence threshold, but not mine.
Yeah, and that's
If
what
you
I'm saying.
understood my
Like,
point,
I understand we have different standards. What I'm saying is, I think that there's a reasonable, when we convict somebody of murder, I forgot the exact term, but isn't it something to the effect of
that is a very bad example, because murder we use a much higher reasonable standard is what we use for lawsuits. That's when, like, oh, I'm suing Forrest didn't pay his rent, and so the landlord took him to court, and like that.
That's correct. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's beyond a reasonable doubt.
For murder, it is
courtroom.
beyond a reasonable doubt. So you certainly haven't. You haven't come in here and given me any reason to say it's reasonable doubt. Go ahead, Forrest.
Yeah. You said a lot of shit in here, Stevie, that I find really morally objectionable. And I'd love to get to that. I really would. But the biggest thing here, we're talking about the standards of evidence. Do you agree with the statement that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence? Can you take the microphone out of whatever fucking paper bag you're shaking it around in? It's horrible.
Sorry, I didn't realize I could hear that. But yeah, go ahead.
Do you agree with the statement that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay. Would you argue that there is a person who lives outside of space and time that whipped up the fucking universe de novo and ex nihilo, and that created humans with an intended purpose of having some intimate relationship with them, and also there's an extra dimensional space of pure joy and a different extra dimensional space of internal suffering, and that there's a thing called a soul that will go? You would consider these to be extraordinary claims? Because I do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
So when Paul asks for what I think is pretty reasonable amounts of evidence, like just prove that this thing exists in the first place, I think that is actually a low bar for evidence of what he's saying. It is more or less what he's saying. Is he's saying if this guy showed up,
if he saw him in person and ate with him and touched him and got to test his DNA, that was the standard that we had talked about.
You understand that that's not contradicting what Forrest just said.
That I was saying.
Right. That is still a low bar, Stevie. That is still a low bar of evidence for something as extraordinary as saying that this is a fucking resurrected Jewish priest from 2,000 years ago. Like that is a remarkable claim to say, you know what? I would put it down to, if I could just get a fucking DNA test, maybe I'd start believing it. I think that Paul is being very generous with you. I think that if I want to talk about evidence, I think the bare fucking minimum of that evidence, bare minimum, is what's depicted in John 20:24 through 28, and also John 20 verse 30, specifically not 29. But like John 20 details out the bare fucking minimum amount of evidence that Jesus himself was happy to provide. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with it, but I don't remember exactly what you're referring to. Like, I don't have it memorized. That's what you're asking.
That's the story of St. Thomas. I can read it to you. I've got it open right here. So Jesus comes back. This is John chapter 20. John chapter 20, which is the fourth different version of the resurrection story, because Jesus is resurrected in 4 chapters in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, 4 different books, 4 different fucking stories, whatever. And so in this version of the story, after he comes back, he meets with the disciples, everybody except for Thomas, who was then called Didymus, who was not there when Jesus came. The other disciples went to Thomas and said, "We have seen the Lord." But he said unto them, "Unless I see his hands and his feet, and put his finger in the holes that the nail produced, and thrust my hand into the hole in his side, I will not believe this." Pretty fucking reasonable. And then within 8 days, Thomas is there with the rest of the disciples, and Jesus comes there and says, "Shut the doors, I'm in your midst, peace be unto you." And he say unto Thomas, "Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands. Behold my hand thrusted into my side. Be not faithless, but believing." He makes Thomas stick his fingers into the holes in his hands and his sides. And then Thomas says, "Thou art the Lord and my God." The reason why I left out verse 29 is because verse 29, Jesus says, "Thomas, you believe because you have seen me, but blessed are those who have not seen and yet still believe. Blessed are those who believe without seeing." And then verse 30 goes right back into reasonable and says, "Many other signs did Jesus do in the presence of his disciples to prove who he was, which are not written about in this book." So according to the Bible, Jesus was happy to show up in person to prove that he was crucified and perform many different signs, proving over and over and over who he was. And then goes on to say, "But you're better off if you just take my word for it, bro." I'm sorry. Trust me, bro, is not a good epistemology, especially not for something as extraordinary as the creator of the universe who cares about who you have sex with and whether or not you eat shellfish. That is a very big claim. And Paul's very basic standard of evidence here, really fucking generous. As a guy, I think he could go way bigger and still be reasonable, is just to say, fucking prove that he even is who he says he is in the first place. Because if you can prove that Jesus is real, that still doesn't prove that he's the Son of God, doesn't prove that there's a God for him to be the son of, doesn't prove that he walked on water, doesn't prove that he turned water into wine, doesn't prove that there's a hell, doesn't prove jack shit, except for the fact that he is in fact Jesus. And Paul is saying, can you at least fucking just prove who you are? And you think that's unreasonable? What the fuck are we talking about, dude? What is that?
Well, if you read that story and you zeroed in, I mean, you said it. Jesus responded saying, "You believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who believe and have not seen." That's Jesus reprimanding him. That's not a negative.
Yes,
like that was a negative response. So Jesus is saying, and if you read the Gospels in their in totality, many times Jesus commends people for their faith. People who didn't get nowhere near what Thomas got and yet believed, and he commended them for their faith.
So just like all religions,
where he's basically reprimanding him.
Evie, like all religions, it rewards credulity. It encourages credulity. Mm-hmm. It encourages people to not check things out on their own. And this is part of why what my religious journey was. I was raised to believe on authority. Don't check this out yourself. Don't worry. Top men have checked it out, and it's all good. Just don't waste your time. We got you. Trust me, bro. As Forrest said, and so this is. If I was creating a religion, I would 1,000,000% include passages that says, "Don't check this out. Be credulous. Accept everything that we say because we said so." That is a almost table stakes for a religion that you put some of that stuff in there.
I would also make
I mean,
sure
I
to
don't know
include
any true
passages that say the
Christian
more
that
people
says that.
rise against you, the more you know this is true. And when the prophecies are coming true, that's when people will speak out against this religion and all that other shit that's in there. It is just immunizing the religion against any questioning, because any questioning proves that it's true. And if you don't question, then you'll really know that it's true. That's how cults work, Stevie.
And that's not reflected in the gospel. In fact, when you read the gospel,
It
there's
is.
many
We just
instances
read
where
it.
people don't believe.
Just
You-
read it.
Are you going to let
You
me talk
just
or not?
read-
What I'm trying to say is, if you read the gospels in their totality, there are many instances where people don't believe Jesus, and they put that in there. So they're not saying,
Yes.
it's not like the Quran where they take out all the
Why
negative
do you,
parts.
Stevie?
No,
Stevie,
like,
why
here,
do you
they
think?
specifically tell you?
Stevie, why do you think you would include in a? If you were creating a religion, why would you include stories of people doubting?
Well, because it happened. Because they're true events.
No.
That's probably why it was recorded.
If you, Stevie, were creating a religion, why might you include stories of people doubting?
Well, if it's true events, you're just recording what's happened. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
If you were,
what other religion? What other religious
you're
book
unable to entertain, Stevie?
that records that?
Hypotheticals are entirely, like, we can't talk about hypotheticals.
No, let's try
real
one.
Question.
Let's try one. Stevie, what was the last thing that you ate today?
I don't see why that's relevant.
Fucking, because we're having a conversation, and it's really important to the conversation that we know you can do this mentally.
Was relevant,
what was the last thing you ate today? What was the last thing you ate today, Stevie?
I'm not going to answer a ridiculous question like that, Forrest. It doesn't matter.
It's too complicated. It's too advanced. Gotcha. No, I understand.
It's too stupid.
I was actually
it's not a smart question.
You don't know what it was about, Stevie. You don't know where I was going with that. You just have decided that you're not going to participate in the fun game of thinking. Sorry. Fucking it's so lame.
So, Stevie, I'm not going to ask you questions. I'm just going to say, if I was creating a religion, Stevie, I would definitely include stories about people doubting, because some people who are reading my story will probably also doubt. And what you want to do is create the verisimilitude of saying, I understand this is a big claim. And when I'm asking you to accept big things, if you include people in your stories who doubted, but then later came to believe, like Thomas or others. So there's, yes, as you say, there's lots of stories about some disciples doubted, but still the Christian tradition is that all the disciples eventually turned around and they didn't doubt, right? So if you have people stories of people overcoming their doubt, that's when you can. What?
I said,
what
did
I say wrong?
Did not all come to believe in him. One of them betrayed him and resulted in him being. If I was going to make up a story,
about Judas?
A cult. Yeah, I'm talking about Judas. If I was going to make up a story, I would put people, like you said, maybe I would say, you know what, let me throw in, I don't think any other religious book does this, but let's just say I was really, really smart. I had a really high IQ. Then I would say, you know what, let me put some doubters in there. And then if it was me, I would make sure by the end of the book, those doubters came to realize they were wrong and they came to the truth. That doesn't happen in the Gospels at all.
Of course it doesn't.
Many people don't believe Jesus, and a lot of them never come to believe in Jesus.
But they do make sure to put in parts of the Bible that say that, like, a sign of the end times and a sign of Jesus returning is people speaking out against the faith and false prophets and all this. And they also make sure to put in things about, like, claiming to be wise, they made themselves fools, and only fools say that there is no God, and all that. They make sure to put in all that stuff, where even when somebody who is doubting in the Bible doesn't get their immediate comeuppance, the Bible as a whole still gets the last laugh. It's the narrative of the story that is consistent throughout the whole thing.
I mean, if it's true, it's they wrote it down.
Oh, so Stevie,
So I don't necessarily agree with you there. I mean, if it's true and it's written down, then it's true.
What if it isn't true and they wrote it down? What does that mean, Stevie?
What if it? I mean, I believe it is true. I mean, we disagree, but I definitely think it's true.
No way! No fucking no way! Just Stevie, are you telling me that you're a Christian? Nuh-uh. Fucking get out of here. Get right out of town. All the way out of town. Shut the front door. Nuh-uh. What? Is it possible for you to answer a straight fucking, like, serious question? Like, to just engage honestly with the conversation? Like, seriously, it's every fucking time.
I don't answer the question the way you want me to, and you don't like that. So I guess that's why.
No, you don't answer the question. You don't answer the question honestly or intelligently, Stevie.
I mean, you don't ask good questions.
I literally just asked you, what if the Bible isn't true? I believe it is true. Is that an answer to that question, or is that just you continuing to spout what you fucking believe because you can't engage with what is being said to you?
I didn't hear that question. I was addressing.
Oh, it's weird because you paused and then answered it. Bizarre.
I didn't hear that question. I mean, I didn't hear it. I heard what you were saying when you were slandering the Bible and saying what the Bible says about unbelievers. And that's the part that I addressed. You got to remember.
I was slandering the Bible by quoting it.
You hit me on 8 different. You hit me on like 8 different points, and then I can't answer all 8. So then I answer something, and then you're like, "Well, you didn't answer the one I wanted to."
What? No, I asked you a direct fucking question, Stevie, and I wasn't slandering the Bible. I was telling you what's in the Bible. Nothing that I said about the Bible is untrue. I didn't even paint it in particularly bad light.
What's your question?
You said that they put those things in the Bible because they're true. I asked you, what if they're not true? Why then would they be in the Bible?
Well, if it's not true, then the Bible is not true.
Uh-huh. So why then would those things be in the Bible?
I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're asking me, like, if I was, let's say I was manufacturing this book, why would I put that in there? And your point is I would put that in there to try to get people to not ask questions, right? That's what you're trying to say?
Congratulations, Stevie. You just got the point that Paul made 6 minutes ago. Yes, that we've been trying to get on the same page about for 6 fucking minutes. While you told me you wouldn't answer silly questions like whether or not you've eaten food recently.
I answered that question like 5 minutes ago when I said.
Then why is it so hard to get you here now?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so Stevie,
if it's true, it's true, y'all. If it's true, it's true.
So, but you haven't.
I mean, it's like.
But you understand?
It's like they say you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, but you can if there's a fire. If there's actually a fire in there, then you can say, yes, there's a fire in there. So you're asking me a kind of a silly question, and I answered it initially when I said, I believe the Bible's true.
We were all here for the call. That's not an answer to that question. That's not an answer to the question, by the way.
You were trying to argue.
I just jumped ahead of you. I was a couple steps ahead.
Congratulations on definitely being a couple of steps ahead of us. So if you could lower yourself to our level, that'd be awesome because you're unfortunately, Forrest and I are going to burn in the hell you believe in because we're not smart enough. So I do appreciate you calling in to try and help us. So if you could help, we non-sophisticated. Poor epistemology, Forrest and I grasp what you already know. Your
I didn't
statement
say any
was,
of that. All I said was I knew where he was going, and I answered the question ahead of time.
Yeah, Stevie, but I believe it is true isn't an answer to the question that either Paul or I asked. I can't stress this enough. I get that you think you're playing 4D chess over here. I really do, but it's simply not what's happening.
Forrest,
you're playing checkers and I'm fucking your dad. What's happening here is that Paul asked you really fucking basic questions. I asked you really fucking basic questions. You refused to participate with any of them and just kept asserting what you believe. And
No,
I've got a
you
fucking
said if it was
whiteboard full of
false.
questions here for you that you don't even have time to answer because I'm not convinced you're going to be able to.
So the last thing you said epistemologically was that
if it was false, why would it be in there? And my response is, if it's true, it would be in there.
But it's
if it's
true.
true. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's not an answer to the
you don't
question.
Like the answer, but that was the answer.
That's not an answer. No, you're right. It is an answer. It is the dumbest possible answer. It is not a complete answer. It is not a noteworthy answer. It is not an answer that's productive in any way, shape, or form. But it is an answer. In the same way that farting into your own mouth would technically be an answer. It is an answer.
So, Stevie, you said that if it's written, it's true, was kind of the last thing I got before the call kind of fell apart. You just made a blanket statement, and I'm just trying to verify, is this a blanket statement that all written things are true?
No, what I said was, if it is true, and they wrote it down as true. That's the point I was trying to make.
Cool. I can grant that all day.
Like if the Bible is true, it's going to write down true statements. That's the only point I was trying to make. He didn't understand that.
Amazing. Is that false of any other book? If Donald Trump's book was true, is it also true?
No, of course not.
If the book that I'm writing is true, is it true? No, it is a tautology. Any book that's true is true.
If you're writing a book on Star Wars, nothing you put in that book is going to be true, right? Because it's a fiction book.
But what if it was? But what if it was true, Stevie? Would it be true if it was true?
But hold on, I mean, I worked for George Lucas, so I absolutely could write books about Star Wars that have true things in them, because or false things, because I was there as the films were being made.
You can give advice. There's a lot of good lessons to learn through Star Wars.
Oh, so
okay, so yes. I mean, this.
Oh, so but I'm talking about you. I was talking about nonfiction, Stevie. Like, because you think the Bible's nonfiction, you think the Bible's historical. So, but you would agree that every every history book that is true. Like, that's kind of what you're saying, right? Like, it's just a tautology. It's a meaningless.
Yeah, like if I was writing a book on the Civil War, and the events that I'm writing about happened, then that's why it's in the book, because it's true.
Right. But cool.
And
now
this is where we are now. This is where we are now. This is what the discourse is.
This is where you asked. I mean, this is where you guys wanted to be.
Oh my God! I'm losing my mind.
Stevie, in this Civil War book that you're gonna write, or that you wrote, or whatever, however this is gonna go, what if some of the things in the book were verifiable facts, and some of the things were either lies or mistaken? What is that also a possibility?
What does that mean?
That's a possibility if you're talking about a book that isn't from God. But if it's supposed to be from God, then it has to be. If it's not,
okay, hold on. This is great. So supposed to be from God. So the Quran is supposed to be from God, right?
It is 100%. It's the same God as the Bible, as a matter of fact.
God,
I'm not saying it is.
I'm saying God
it's supposed to be, right? No, but it's supposed to be from God. Like, whether you think it is or not, you would agree that it's supposed to be by the people who believe it.
If you're a Muslim, sure.
Yeah, they would say it's supposed to be from God. Now, do you think that there's any statement in the Quran that is a historical fact? Did they make even one historically correct?
I haven't read it in its entirety.
But do you?
So
in the parts you read, was there 0 facts that were correct? Like, does the Middle East exist as a place, as a region? You know, are the caves where it was written? Do those even exist? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So there are some true things in the Quran. Amazing. Does that mean our unit of accepting it as true is a binary? It's 100% true, or 100% false? Or do we look at the Quran and say, oh, okay, they got a couple things right, but maybe some of the rest of the stuff is not right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, if you can prove that the Bible isn't true, then my uh, my faith would fall apart, and my faith would be in vain. But if you prove to me that the Quran isn't true, then it makes no difference, because I know.
What if the Bible? What if we can find a part of the Bible that contradicts another part of the Bible? Would that be enough to show you that it's not true? If two parts say contradictory things?
Well, here's the thing. If we're going to go into contradictions, it's going to get muddy. But if we do that, number one, the burden of proof is on you to prove that it's a contradiction. And we need to establish what a contradiction is. A contradiction
in this case, somewhere where let's say somewhere where it says one thing and then the different part of it says a different thing, and that both things cannot be true at the same time. How about that? Is that a good definition? If I can show you a part of the Bible in the same what?
Hold on. What I was going to say is a contradiction is if you can find somewhere where it says if it says this is X and not X in the same way, in the same sense. Like if I told you, Forrest, if I told you I was present in class today, and then later I told you, man, I was not present in class today. Is that a contradiction?
Right. Yep. I wasn't. Absolutely.
The first one is referring to physical presence, and the second one is referring to mental, meaning, yeah, you know what? I was not present in class today.
Let's go over one and see if you agree. Let's go over one and see if you agree. Let's see if this would work for you.
I don't know the entire Bible, but sure, go for it.
Unlike most Christians, I've actually read quite a bit of it, and so I'm able to go through a few parts of it that I think might be helpful. Let me see here if I can find the part that I'm looking for. I believe it's in Kings, 2 Kings. Let me see here, because I've got a bunch, but this is one that I'm particularly interested in at this moment. And I know I've got one of them here. It's surely this part, right? I'm sorry, give me 2 seconds. I apologize for wasting your time here. I just want to find the fucking thing. Here it is, got it. Okay, yes, it was in 2 Kings. So here I've got this is 2 Chronicles and 2 Kings. Yes. Okay. So here in 2 Kings, chapter 8, we've got this dude dies. He's a king or whatever. Joram slept with his fathers. Was buried with his fathers in the city of David. Azariah, his son, reigned in his stead. In the 12th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, did Azariah, the son of Joram, king of Judah, begin to reign. 22 years old was Azariah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. So I'm going to read that again. Here you've got this king. He dies. His son, Azariah.
What verse is this? You said chapter.
This is 2 Kings chapter 8, verse 26 is what I'm reading. So here we have this guy becomes the king. 22 years old was Azariah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. So we can agree, I hope, I'm just going to repeat this back in my own words here. Here we have a person who becomes king at the age of 22. He rules for exactly 1 year. That is what it says in this verse. Do you agree with that?
I'm still flipping to the page. You said 2 Kings chapter 8, verse 16. Is that what you said? Or what was the verse again?
26. Verse 26.
26. Okay. Okay, I'm looking at it. Go ahead. Pick up where you left off.
So I'm going to say again, it says 22 years old. Mine's King James Version, so it's got some weird language, but it says 22 years old was Ahaziah, fuck me, dude, was Ahaziah when he began to reign. and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. I don't know why I'm mixing up the letters in these people's names. I do it a lot. It's weird. So we can agree. This verse right here, this person just became king because his father died. He died, and his son becomes king at the age of 22, and he reigns for 1 year. Is that what it says there in chapter 8, verse 26?
That's what it says.
Great. Now I'm going to flip to a retelling of that same story in 2nd Chronicles, chapter 22, actually chapter 21, verse 20, and then into 22, verse 2 is really important. But really, 22, verse 2 is the most important part, because here we have the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Azahiah, his youngest son, king in his stead. The same guy just died, right? Gave him king in his stead, with a band of men that came to the Arabians of the camp and slain all the eldest. So Azahiah, the son of Joram, king of Judah, reigned. Here we have chapter 22, verse 2. 42 years old was Azahiah when he began to reign. He reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri. So we have the exact same text in Kings 8:26 and 2nd Chronicles 22:2. The only difference is in one of them he's 22, and in the other one he is 42. So here we have a pretty clear contradiction. This isn't like present in mind versus body. This is, was he 22 years old or 42 years old?
And in Chronicles, it said he was how old?
42. 2nd Chronicles 22:2. He was 42 years old. Also, fun fact, right before that, in chapter 21, verse 20, it says that the father was 32 when he began to reign, and he ruled in Jerusalem 8 years before dying. So he would have been 40 years old when he died, and his son immediately took over at 42. So his son was 2 years old when he was born as well, which is very interesting to me.
I'm flipping back to Kings real quick. I'm pretty sure this is a pretty common one here that people bring up.
Second Kings, chapter 8, verse 26. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned for 1 year in Jerusalem. Then 2nd Chronicles 22:2. 42 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned for 1 year in Jerusalem. Exact same words, exact same flow. One of them he's 22, the other one he's 42, and also was born at the age of 2. And this is the first one. I've got plenty more contradictions that I would love to go over with you.
This is a very easy one to explain. So this is simply like a textual variant. In fact, the book that I have, which is NASB, it shows 22 and 22. So what it is that a scribe just made an error and put a 4 in there.
So,
and it says here, then many ancient manuscripts.
So then to be clear,
say 22.
So then to be clear, you think that the Bible is only true when it is properly translated and interpreted, which means certain versions of the Bible. Because I'm reading directly from the King James Version.
Look, if I let's just say I have a manuscript in my possession and I change that manuscript, am I changing the Bible? No, I'm just changing a copy. So the Bible is not just one. It's not just one.
So you agree?
It's the collection of manuscripts.
So you agree that every Christian who believes in the King James Version of the Bible is believing in a flawed and fallible Bible that is not actually true.
What I'm trying to say is the Bible is not any one translation. The Bible is the full body of text. Meaning, like if there's for example, Greek, we have over 5,000 Greek manuscripts. So there's people with PhDs that put those manuscripts and they reconstruct it, and they can tell if something has been changed in the past, or something has been changed in the past.
In my Bible,
is the Bible, not in the individual Bible.
And in my Bible, it has this very clear contradiction. So are you saying that my Bible is wrong?
I am. Because even when I was on Christian, I'm actually
older manuscript.
No, I'm actually on Team Stevie here, Forrest. I'm actually the King James is garbage in terms of the manuscripts that it's based on and all that kind of stuff.
So King James, I mean, most people don't even use the King James anymore because it uses, at the time that was penned, we didn't have the amount of manuscripts that we have today. So
right. So you agree?
Scrolls came out way after that.
So then you agree, Stevie?
Not up to date.
So then you agree, Stevie, that this version of the Bible is incorrect, right?
I mean, the one that you have has an error in it. Yes.
Christian
has
Paul
an error not in the Bible, but in that translation.
Yeah. So then every Christian who has the King James version of the Bible in their house and believes in the King James version of the Bible is practicing Christianity wrong. They're believing wrong things.
No, I mean, this has no bearing on anything, really. There's nothing significant about it at all.
How about this one?
Just a body of text.
Samuel.
Very easily explained.
How about this one? 2 Samuel chapter 24, verse 1. Again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. He moved David against them to say, go number Israel and Judah. So here, the beginning of chapter 24, God tells David to go count and number the people of Israel and Judah. Later on in the text, he then punishes him for doing that for fucking whatever reason. But that's what it says here. Chapter 24, verse 1. Do you agree that God is telling David to go number the people of Israel and Judah?
That's Samuel 24. What was the verse?
Number 1. 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel, chapter 24, verse 1.
So Forrest, Stevie clearly has a harmonization reference. Like he's gonna have an answer. He's able to read an answer that someone else came up with for each of these, because as a Christian, I can tell you that there are, if you're willing to harmonize, if you're willing to just go with it, there's ways around. But I guess
always.
The question is, I think that perhaps we've chatted with Stevie long enough that going through harmonization after harmonization.
Can I do this last one though? I agree with you that this call has lost its usefulness, but like this is a lot of fun for this last one.
I'm just saying, as a Christian, this wouldn't have bothered me at all. So go for it, though.
Okay. If you think it's unproductive, I'll stop after this. Stevie, do you agree? 2 Samuel chapter 24, verse 1 says that God is telling David to go number the people of Israel. Do you agree that's what that says?
It says here, these are the names of the mighty men whom David had. Let me see here.
2 Samuel chapter 24.
Okay.
2 Samuel 24, verse 1.
Okay, here it is. Now, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel again, and he incited David against them to say, go count Israel and Judah.
Right. So you agree that is God telling David to go count the people in Judah and Israel, right?
Now, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he incited anger of the Lord. Yeah, it seems like it is saying the Lord here.
Right. So we agree. God is telling David, go count the people of Israel and Judah. Yes?
I mean, now the anger of the Lord, it's not like super clear here. Now the anger of the Lord burned against Israel again, and he incited David. Like, it doesn't say the Lord incited David. It says he incited David.
How else could it possibly? Okay, who else could they possibly be talking about?
Well, what's the context of this passage?
I'm asking you if you think that passage means that God. It sounds like this is a pretty fucking straightforward thing.
Like,
God was mad and he said to
I'm
do
saying,
this.
like,
And you're saying, well, it doesn't say God
up.
twice. Yes, I did bring it up,
No,
but I brought it up on purpose. And it sounds to me like you are waiting to hear.
Is important.
You are waiting to hear the contradiction to then decide now whether or not you agree with what the text says, just to protect yourself from being wrong.
We are reaching a point of diminishing returns with this. I love you all, and
I mean,
you're gonna
like,
end the call now.
Like, if we're gonna go after contradictions, you're not gonna be able to prove a contradiction. You're just not.
Yeah, you aren't going to be able to. Not to Stevie. The fun.
So
you
just
weren't able to nail me on anything. But
the fun spoiler, Stevie,
there.
is in. Yeah, Stevie, it's very clear you're not being serious about this. If you've already just decided there's no way you can be proven wrong, just for fun for everybody out there listening who actually gives a fuck about it.
But
in First Chronicles, shut the fuck up, Stevie. First Chronicles chapter 21, the same story is being told again in First Chronicles chapter 21, verse 1. Satan stood against Israel and provoked David to go and number Israel. So in one book, God tells him to do it, and the other one, Satan tells him to do it. And Stevie would sit here and fucking say, well, it didn't say God twice, it just said him. So maybe the him in this one is talking about Satan. And of course, we can go through all the fucking rest of the Bible. Go back to Genesis, where God makes all the animals out of the water, and then he makes all the animals out of the land in a different part, where he makes humans first in one part, and he makes humans last in another part, where God makes the heavens and the earth in this part, and then Jesus makes the heavens and the earth in some other part, where light comes on the first day in one part and fourth day on the other part, where plants are made before humans in one part and after humans in another part, where stars are made before the earth in one part and after the earth in another part, over and over and over and over and over. Millions of contradictions in this book. And let's not forget the fact that this is a book that condones fucking slavery and genocide and rape and torture and all sorts of other shit. And this is God's divine way of communicating with humans because he can't figure out how to send a fucking text message. Yeah, I'm just so fucking done with it. Stevie, we had a great conversation yesterday when you were being almost halfway honest. And now clearly when you get into an uncomfortable position about your shitty fucking religion, you just can't be bothered to actually answer a direct question, and it sucks. Just I'm so done with it. 55 minutes. Good gravy. Paul, do you have anything else for Stevie? I'm sorry I hijacked at the end there. I just was trying to make some sort of headway. It didn't work because he's just so Stevie, fucking bogged down.
Stevie, next time you call me, let's start with, can a book have some true things and some false things? And we'll pick it up where we had where you and I stopped talking. But next time, that'll be next time. Have a good day, sir.